Hello everyone. If you had to choose to fight one of these three, would you really take your opponent seriously? Maybe not, and that could actually be a mistake. Even this bearded guy has often been underestimated, which has played right into his hands. The story unfolds in a unique residential group for the disabled. The individuals who reside here are cared for, but they actually have much more freedom than you might initially think. The rooms in the group home are nothing like wards, and two boys, Zoli and Barba, share one of them. They are a couple. They create comics together and support each other. Sometimes they just have fun. One day, for instance, Barba shows up with a fire extinguisher, claiming he stole it. Zoli finds this funny, and they head outside to test their new toy. Their fun is interrupted when a bearded man from the dormitory shows up in the alley. He asks them for a light, and Barba kindly hands him a lighter. Barba mentions to the man that smoking is not allowed there. The man is about to leave when suddenly, it turns out that the mysterious dormitory neighbor used to be a firefighter back in 2001. He tells Zoli that he has often pulled the bodies of small children from burning buildings and orders him to leave. He places the fire extinguisher back where he originally found it. The man then turns around and starts driving away, but Zoli feels offended by his behavior. He catches up with him and attempts to hit him. However, the bearded man turns out to be much stronger, and Zoli is quickly overpowered. Once he has calmed down, the victorious man drives off to urinate in a sewer grate. Then, one of the two friends asks him if he happens to be Rupaszov, the person who was sent to the group home after serving time in prison. Arrived at the group home, the man avoids giving a straight answer and debates with the boys for some time. Eventually, he suggests they go for a drink downtown. The boys are surprised by how many drinks their new friend orders. Zoli questions if he's a dealer. Rupaszov chuckles, wondering where they got that notion. However, he admits that he could do with a little help with the work. He needs a driver, for example. Barba readily agrees. He has a car. Soon afterwards, Zoli lies down on a sofa, and Rupaszov asks what is wrong with him. Barba tells him that his friend's back hurts, but their new friend shows no sympathy for Zoli. He says that his back hurts all the time too, and that feeling sorry for himself doesn't help. Rupaszov is unaware of how severe Kolika's health issues are. The following day, with his mother, he visits the doctor and learns that his condition has deteriorated. His spine needs immediate support as it's curving quickly and pressing on his organs. Surgery is the sole option to save Zoli's life. His mother informs the doctor that his father, residing in Germany, is ready to cover the costly surgery and is eager to help. Rupaszov is at last in a position to assist his son. However, to the amazement of both the doctor and Zoli's mother, he refuses the offer without hesitation. Meanwhile, Rupaszov faces his own set of issues, which are highly dubious. In a park, he encounters a suspicious man who is accompanied by 4 Rottweilers. This man gives Rupaszov a yellow package and reminds him to fulfill his obligations. Later on, Barba and Zoli make a stop at a food truck to pick up some food for Rupaszov. Meanwhile, the man is standing alone in the middle of nowhere waiting for someone to arrive. Suddenly, a car appears and 4 thugs step out of it. Then, another car arrives, this time with the 2 disabled friends. One of the thugs looks at Rupaszov with disdain and suggests that he should sit down with the passengers in the car that just arrived. When Rupaszov informs him that he was sent there to pass on some important information, the bandit simply grins. Rupaszov makes an attempt to gesture for the boys to leave, but the gang is already closely following him. The leader of the gang inquires about his purpose there, and Rupaszov explains it calmly. Rados, the man known for his Rottweilers, has departed from the business and no longer wishes to associate with the scumbag of a boss. But Rupaszov feels nothing. He is completely paralyzed from the waist down. Then the leader kicks him in the chest and the mercenary decides not to lose another S. After successfully completing the mission, Rupaszov goes there. He begins to flirt with a nurse, and as they talk, it becomes evident that they had a past relationship. However, the girl now has a new boyfriend who recently proposed to her, and he has forbidden her from speaking to Rupaszov. Meanwhile, Rupaszov's boss, Rados, is taking his cherished Rottweilers for a walk along the river. Some unknown individuals, concealed in a car, seize the chance to shoot at him and his dogs. One of the dogs falls, and the others quickly follow the command of their owner, who has miraculously avoided death. After reuniting with his former lover, Rupaszov becomes deeply distressed. He recalls how happy he was before going to prison and reflects on how he ended up there. He was caught stealing bread and accidentally shot an officer who tried to arrest him. The drunken Rupaszov has flashbacks and runs out of the dormitory at breakneck speed. He tries to throw himself down the stairs but survives. The next day he meets Rados and wants to be paid for the last job. He claims that their enemies have become tougher and have begun a hunt for them, but Rados believes in his agent. No one takes Rupa's spat over the wheelchair seriously, and so he is able to take on even the most dangerous enemies, e.g. with Tony, who's the leader of a rival clan. But before reaching Tony, he needs to handle Tony's lawyer first. There's just one problem. Tony always has bodyguards around him and only visits busy places. Yet, this doesn't deter Rupaszov. He simply requests more money and assures that he'll manage everything. Rados is satisfied. It's obvious that he doesn't care whether Rupaszov survives or not. He only cares about keeping the mission a secret. In the residential group, Rupaszov trains in a rehabilitation hall. He is trying to learn to walk again with the help of prostheses, but so far he has not been very successful. Zolika sees this. He goes to his friend and says that he and Barbara want the three of them to work as a team. The new mission has not yet begun, and Zolika goes to a comic festival with his faithful friend. A competition for young talent is being held there. The boys take part. They don't win a prize, but one of the local publishers praises their idea. He says they just need to work on the storyline a little more. Their dream of being published is thus dashed. In the meantime, Rupaszov doesn't give up on his dreams. He heads over to the hospital, and there he sees his ex carrying flowers. But then, he watches her leave work and literally fall into the arms of her new boyfriend. Not long after, events reach a climax in the city center. Rupaszov is standing right in the pedestrian zone, observing Tony's lawyer as he enjoys lunch on the terrace of a cafe, surrounded by two men. The mercenary isn't acting on his own. Zolika and Barba are close by, prepared to create a distraction and rush in to help at any moment. They pretend to be feeding birds. But as soon as the lawyer comes outside, while the frightened citizens look around, the bodyguards examine the windows in search of the sniper, and the boys quickly leave the scene. This is witnessed by Rados, who has been directing the whole mission from a car nearby. Zolika finds himself in the doctor's office with his mother, but keeps looking at his cell phone, insisting that he will be the one to carry out the operation. Refuses to. The doctor reprimands him for staring at his phone, and Zolika instantly gets upset, curses, and storms out of the office. His mother follows and chastises him for being so disrespectful. But Zolika is unstoppable. He yells that his mother has lied to him his entire life. He thinks his father didn't leave due to issues with his mother, but because he was embarrassed by his disabled son. Zolika's mother tries to calm her son down. She says that his father only wanted to emigrate and that she didn't follow him because of her Olympic career. But Zolika won't even listen to her. Rupaszov takes the bus to the dormitory and meets his lover there. She invites him to the wedding, and the man unexpectedly accepts. But a far less pleasant encounter awaits Rupaszov that evening. Rados is enraged by what he witnessed yesterday. Rupaszov faces a difficult of either losing money and the dream of new legs or getting rid of his new friends. Without hesitation, he decides to take Zolika and Barba fishing. Barba suddenly gets lucky and the fish starts biting. He can't get it out of the river, and Rupaszov seizes the opportunity and pushes Barba into the water. Zolika doesn't understand why his friend has decided to pull such a nasty prank. He asks him to help him pull Barba out, but instead Rupaszov pushes him off the pontoon too. Since the boys can't swim, Rupaszov doesn't even have to do anything else. Although he has already killed many strangers, he now finds it difficult. Rupaszov has another meeting with his boss. Rados is curious about how he managed to kill his friends, and Rupaszov explains that he drowned them while they were on the raft. His boss is quite satisfied with the murderer's loyalty and shares some good news with him. They have discovered the hiding place of the feared mafia boss, Tony. Now, all Rupaszov needs to do is go to his door and tell him a story that Rados has already crafted. The men eventually part ways, but later that evening, Rados notices Rupaszov at the group home. He becomes certain that Rupaszov hasn't actually parted with his partners after all. Rupa's partners don't waste any time. They attempt to conceal weapons inside an old wheelchair cushion, preparing for their next mission. All three of them make their way to Tony's house, but Rupaszov insists they stay behind. He instructs Zolika to contact the police if he does not return within 20 minutes, then proceeds to meet the mob boss. Rupaszov tells the guards that he has a message from Tony's brother. Then, he informs Tony that he had shared a prison cell with his brother for a period of 6 months and had only been released just the day before. After the killer reveals to the crime boss the name of the surgeon who operated on his brother, Tony allows him to enter the house. However, before that, they search him thoroughly but don't find anything suspicious. Once inside, the mob boss suddenly begins discussing topics like soccer, business dealings with Soot, and other mentalities. However, Rupaszov does not intend to become friends with him. He directly asks what this has to do with him. Tony confesses that his brother passed away 2 days ago, and he quickly realizes that the stranger before him is deceiving him. Rupaszov feels compelled to grab the pillow and start shooting. The bullet strikes several bodyguards, yet Tony successfully hides in a different room. But briefly, Rupaszov is running out of time. Almost 20 minutes have passed, so he has to get back into the car immediately. As soon as he reaches the gate, he realizes that it is locked. He panics, calls Zolika, and asks her to drive up to the gate so that he can order Barba to ram it with his own car. But before he can do so, they hear a police siren in the distance. Although Zolika has not called the police, Rupaszov asks Zolika to meet the policeman and buy him some time. Zolika is successful. He stops a patrol car and tells the officer that 2 suspicious men have just run in the opposite direction. Meanwhile, Barba takes care of the gates. After a few hours, the 3 friends are already sitting around a fire and burning Rupaszov's wheelchair. For some reason, however, he is not at all happy about the success of the mission. He says Zolika and Barba are just trouble, so he'll pay them off and end their work together. Rupaszov goes to Rados for payment, but his boss takes him to a strange spot. Rados tells him it's time to say goodbye and shows him the gallows he set up. The man refuses to hang himself, but his boss threatens him with Rottweilers, forcing him to do it. When left alone, Rupaszov somehow manages to chew through the shackles on his hands. Meanwhile, Zolika's health is getting worse. Barba is taking care of him and shows him a new part of the comic, which is based on her adventures with Rupaszov. The story seems to be reaching its conclusion. In the dead of night, the phone rings in her room. Her boyfriend has had a change of heart and has decided to meet up with them once more. In his room, Rupaszov informs his friends that Rados will soon be searching for them, and the only way to evade him is to be quicker than he is. Suddenly, Barba comes up with a clever idea. He tosses a phone with the GPS activated into the boss's car, allowing them to track his movements. Meanwhile, Rupaszov heads to his ex's wedding with Kolika, while Barba embarks on a secret mission accompanied by 2 boys. Everything seems to go wrong. Rupaszov tries to flirt with the bride during the wedding, and Barba along with his assistants are nearly caught by Rados. However, a new day dawns, and the trio is already positioned near the crime boss's house. The plan with the navigator has indeed worked. Later in the evening, Rados comes back home as if nothing unusual had occurred. Rupaszov and Zolika are already there, waiting for him. The killer who has risen from the dead demands the money he has earned. But Rados is not to be deterred. He shows them the key to the safe and suggests they get the money themselves. But the dogs will attack them immediately if they see a weapon. Rupaszov only says that he likes a challenge and breaks all his opponent's expectations. But Rados doesn't give up. He pulls out a knife and begins to fight with Rupaszov, eventually inflicting several fatal wounds on him. Fatal wounds. Before he dies, Rupaszov screams and tells Zolika to shoot. The man looks away and kills Rados at close range. He says goodbye to Rupaszov, takes the money from the safe and disappears. A few days later, Zolika speaks to the doctor again, as he now has the money 2001.